All right, so today we're going to do something a little different. We're getting to know a man named Fred, but not through history books or old interviews. Nope, our guide is the house he lived in for over 30 years. We're going to see his life through the eyes, well, the walls of his home.
And this right here, this quote just nails it. It tells us everything we need to know. The house remembers Fred, not for some big, flashy accomplishment, but for this quiet, steady competence. You know, the kind of reliability that just makes a house feel like a home. Safe. Secure. That was Fred.
So, if you really want to understand a guy like Fred, where do you start? Well, you go to his command center. For him, that was the office in the entry room. This was the place where his true character was just out there for everyone to see.
I love that phrase, a careful geography. It's so perfect, right? Because this desk wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was basically a map of his brain. Everything had its place, every single folder, every book, all organized with this incredible precision.
And that sound, that click-clunk-ding, that was the soundtrack of Fred's work. But, you know, it was so much more than just noise. For his family, that steady rhythm was the sound of safety. Every one of those clicks meant a family was protected, that their own little world was stable and secure.
Now, this methodical way of doing things, it wasn't just for his home office. Oh no. When Fred went to work as an insurance agent for Prudential, he took that exact same precision with him, right out into the community.
See, for Fred, it wasn't just business. It wasn't about the numbers on a page. It was all about the people. He knew their stories. He knew what was going on in their lives in Pacific Beach, and he'd come home and talk about them. He treated his clients like they were part of his own extended family.
And this is what's so amazing about a guy like Fred. The same brain, the same methodical approach he used for his insurance books, that's exactly what he'd use to figure out a plumbing problem or fix a squeaky hinge. He could switch gears from professional to handyman just like that, without missing a beat. It was all the same competence to him.
Okay, so let's follow that competence out to the garage, to his workshop, because this is where that methodical mind got physical. This is where he literally built the world his family lived in.
I mean, just look at this stuff. We're not talking about simple fixes here. The man was a creator, a custom desk for his sons, a whole standing closet for their room. And it wasn't just for his own family. He was the go-to guy for repairs on 5 other rental units on their block. His hands were always busy, always providing. And you know, his boys learned pretty quick, if you borrow Dad's tools, you put them back exactly where you found them. And that tells you so much. The workshop wasn't just for him, it was a classroom. It wasn't just him being strict, it was about teaching them respect for the tools, for the craft, and the responsibility to do a job the right way.
So, we've seen Fred the professional and Fred the craftsman. But what about after hours? What happened when the tools were put away? Well, in the evenings, a whole other side of Fred came out. This was the family man, the fan, and the competitor.
When the TV arrived in 1954, it really changed the rhythm of the evenings. He had the whole family laughing at I Love Lucy. But then, when the news came on, Fred would lean forward, totally focused, and he'd use it as a moment to teach his sons why it's so important to know what's going on in the world. And then, after the boys were in bed, it was Fred's time for his, let's call them, guilty pleasures. Roller derby, boxing, gotta love it.
Come the weekend, that laser focus shifted to the bowling alley. And get this, his average was over 190. You don't just stumble into a score like that. Nope, that's the same methodical precision we've been talking about, just applied to a different game. The man was a serious competitor.
So yeah, he was an amazing bowler. He won his fair share of games. But all those trophies and high scores, they weren't the real prize, at least not for his family. So what was? What was the real reward from his Friday night league?
It was this, a simple white box of donuts. See, after his Friday night games, he'd stop by the bakery and pick up the half-price donuts. It was brilliant. He took his personal win and turned it into this sweet, celebratory breakfast for the whole family. It was like he was bringing home a trophy they could all eat.
Okay, so when you put all these pieces together, Fred the provider, the craftsman, the dad, the sports fan, what's the one thing that connects it all? What's the common thread here?
Well, here it is. This was Fred's secret sauce, if you will. The guy never seemed rushed, never overwhelmed. Why? Because he had a system for everything. He'd look at a complex problem. Didn't matter if it was an insurance book, a leaky pipe, or a 7-10 split, and he'd just break it down into smaller, manageable pieces. Then he'd tackle each one, step by step.
And that quiet, consistent example, that was probably the greatest lesson he ever taught his sons. Just by watching him, they learned that being great at something isn't about luck, it's a habit. It's something you build with preparation and persistence. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, the best rewards are the ones you share.
So at the end of the day, Fred's life really was like a symphony. Not some loud, dramatic piece with huge crescendos. No, it was a quiet symphony built on a steady, reliable rhythm. The rhythm of competence, of purpose, of taking care of business and taking care of family. And that quiet music created a world of security and love and left behind this incredible legacy of just quiet excellence.